since he wore purple all the time, could we legally call him the Grapist?
Why everyone going with the Mephisto theories? I was like,
Why are you running? I just flew all the way out here. I've been looking for you for years, and you're just gonna run from me?
Honestly, that's the entirety of his miniseries, looking for his shoes.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another fine episode of the Happy 616th Marvel Family Podcast. I am your host, as always, the Funny Hatter. Today, I have with me Victor the X-Man, Space Wiz the Christopher, and Kane the Lizard King. And at the time of this release, it should be the 4th of July. Happy Independence Day! Yay!
Independence Day! Fuck yeah!
We fought the aliens and we won. Those dang aliens are not coming back.
America! Fuck yeah!
We removed them all.
This is
No
this
more
is the
aliens.
historical day that we fought the aliens and then we won the planet.
Stand
we all
up,
came
drink
together,
a beer, have a hot dog, and just live life.
right?
Yeah.
As is tradition,
As the
American way.
founding fathers did before us.
exactly. That's what they intended. And don't let anybody tell you different. That's exactly what it should be in the history books. It's in there. You just gotta find in the fine print. But anyway, thank you very much for listening in. Today we are celebrating our Independence Day with a little, some would say mascot, others would say a hero, and some would say a personal Chris Evans. Today we're going to be celebrating by reviewing Captain America, the First Avenger. I felt that was only appropriate to do so because Star Spangled Bannered Man. There you go. That's the only excuse I have. But it's also a good movie. I find it to be a very good movie.
I mean, if we go off the first Avengers movie, it's technically Captain Puerto Rico, the way his flag is positioned on his costume.
Yep.
That is very true. It could be Captain America or Captain Puerto Rico. It's up to you.
He could have been fighting for both the whole time.
True. He could have been fighting for both. But like I said, that's up for interpretation. It's like one of those Christopher Nolan open-ended gates right there. It's up for you to decide. But anyway, like I mentioned before, I found this to be a very good movie, and I thought it would only be appropriate to celebrate and review on Independence Day. So before we get into our thoughts about this marvelous movie, one may say, let's do a little recap. And we'll get right into our review right after this. This was totally not pre-recorded before. Don't ask questions, and here's the recap. Okay, look, we're back. Hey,
Wow.
that was fast.
That was a good recap.
Very good recap. I do say so myself.
Amazingly put together.
Yeah, it took me a week just to come up with that. Anyway, so after that little recap, I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts. What do you think about this movie? The cast, the decision about this version of Captain America, the director, the writing. What do you guys think? Go ahead. We are on Chaos Rules, so anybody can interrupt anybody at any time, just how Christopher likes it. So yeah,
Hey.
what do you guys think? Captain America, talk Cap.
I feel like the Rocketeers director was a brilliant choice for Captain America
right.
specifically.
Joe
Like,
Johnson, baby.
yeah, given that.
Yeah, that was him, wasn't it?
And also Jurassic Park 3.
Really?
Yeah.
You have your good works and you got your bad works, you know? Captain America was one of his good work.
Of course, Jurassic Park 3, classic, instant classic, but Captain America, sadly not as good.
It's like Sam Raimi. For every Spider-Man 2, there's a Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness.
That's true. Two great
That's how the
masterpieces,
saying
you're
goes. Masterpieces in their own way.
Yeah, I shall say.
In their own special way.
their own special way.
But yeah, like it brings like the whole like period piece like action aesthetic while also being aware of like the time it takes place within. Like, you know, you can't just get anybody to make a Captain America movie who's like done a whole bunch of World War II movies, because well, you can find a lot of them in the industry. In Hollywood,
really
like they're a dime a dozen. You can find a whole lot.
Hollywood
That's their favorite
loves to
war,
do.
man.
Yeah, Hollywood loves to do World War II movies because it's like they have all the props they need, they have all the clothing they need because they've done so many TV shows at this point. They're like, hey, whatever's the company that did Band of Brothers, can we just borrow your prop and clothing department, please? Because we just need it for the background extras for this movie. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
I was about to say, considering like how many like propaganda like movies that they made back in the day, like for World War II, it wouldn't surprise me. It's like, all right, let's go back into the World War II vault and get all the costumes and sets we need.
Bring me all the briefcases and all the bins that have all the old tattered clothes and everything.
But yeah, in this case, it needed to be more special than that. Like, this is very much a movie that is aware of the time it takes place in, while, you know, still having that special spirit of a World War II, you know, classic.
It's like what kind of war has a man that runs around with a shield with the American flag on it? I'll tell you, World War II. Jump on in.
Woo!
Jump on in. Water's fine.
Like, you know, it's showing the positives and negatives from a far more unconventional degree than most of these would that you'd see over time when it came to World War II. And, you know, basically making it into like a template of what would be Marvel Classics, you know, really in terms of how to do an origin story, but unique to this particular character.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I personally think this is one of like Marvel Studios' like best that they came out with because of just how much attention to detail that they really put into this movie. Not just like the setting, the time period, not just for the characters, but also something that I really admire of how much like it. Of course, it says Captain America. It's a Captain America movie, but it actually seems like it's about Captain America. It's actually like about his character, especially like in the beginning, like how. Okay, so. When I was a wee lad, you see, I didn't have much appreciation of this movie. A wee lad, a wee lad, I say. I didn't have much appreciation for this movie because if you think about it, it is very much by the numbers, like narratively. And I figured like, oh, okay, I've seen this kind of story before in like my morning cartoons and blah, 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 blah. But as time progressed, and I also thought that the idea of Captain America was a very dumb character at the time. But as time progressed and I watched more of this movie and I started reading more Captain America books, is like, wow, they actually like understand this character. Like they understand like this guy, like it almost seems like the movie like really plays on like what's Steve Rogers' motivation? Is it more patriotism or is it trying to prove to himself that he can be the best man that he wants to be? And maybe it's a bit of both, but it's enough to show like how strong-willed of a character he really is. And not just how strong-willed of a character he is, like what kind of man he is. Because like one of the things that I really noticed, like two things really stuck out in this movie for me about Steve Rogers' character. One being when he gets asked by Dr. What's his name? The one who recruits him.
Erskine, yeah.
Erskine. When he says, do you want to kill Nazis? And he asks him again, like, do you want to kill Nazis? And he said, I don't want to kill anyone. I just don't like bullies and I don't care where they come from. I can't remember any other movie
that's him.
At the time. Yeah, any other movie like saying something like that, because like usually they'll have like a hero or like some kind of like badass saying like I don't know, something along like something tough.
I want to stop Nazis or something like that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna stop them. It's like send them all. It's like
send them all to hell.
Unfair fight. Yeah, something like that. But like
if any one of them comes, I'll kill them all.
Exactly, something like that. It's something like I'd say like a snake from like Escape from New York, something like.
And then the very German scientist just slowly slides to the doorway.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, this guy's out.
But that's not Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
Like deep down, he's a person who actually cares about other people and it even shows like in the beginning of the movie to when he's getting bullied by like some guy like he had an argument with in a movie theater, and then like again when he goes to talk to Agent Carter, like saying like, "Hey, I got beat up over there and over there." And over there.
And in that alley.
Oh, I got beat up in that street too. I didn't get beat up over there, but the next street I definitely got beat up in. I'm paraphrasing, but the idea is that he understands what it means to be the little guy and how important it is to look out for one another, especially like in a time of war. And then the next part, and then I'll shut up so we can hear other people talking here. The next part that really stuck out for me was like his willpower to really push himself forward is when he's going under the procedure of taking the super soldier serum. That's a tongue twister. To when he's in the machine and then like he starts screaming. They're like, "Cut it off! Let him out!" And he's like, "No, I can do this. I can go through with it." And then like he like pushes himself to make sure that the procedure is a success.
Wait.
What procedure are we doing here? No.
I mean, he was shirtless. I mean,
Well, yeah, he was shirtless. He was under a building, and they strapped him up.
wait.
Concerning.
Which version of the movie did you see?
Yeah, this is for war, right? Maybe.
Yeah,
But then he comes out as Captain America because he's so determined to like go through this procedure. He just does not give up, and that's also a theme like throughout the movie too. He's just a person who just does not give up.
He literally embodies the catchphrase that he says where he goes, "I could do this all day," and he really means it. Like he does not stop. It doesn't matter if he's tired or if he's weak. Like he's going to get the job done, even if it means like we know how the movie ends.
Yeah.
So he got the job done, but at what cost?
And he dies. Never comes back.
Loses everyone he knew.
He had a date.
He had a date.
He had a date.
It's like
I wish I had a date.
One of the things I liked about this movie, though, is that it reminds me of a time like when the superhero movies first started coming out. This was like, was this 2010 or 2011 when this movie came out? 2011. I remember this was like right at the time. This was the one that right at the time we had the first Iron Man, we had Thor, we had The Dark Knight had come out at this time. This was like, I always kind of miss this time period for superhero movies in general because it felt more of like, not the grounded take on the superhero genre, but more of like the realistic take of the superhero genre. Because like one of the things, especially with the MCU nowadays, that I miss about this version that Captain America, the First Avenger is from, you could tell that this movie was made by fans for the fans. You could tell that the people who wrote this movie, the guy who directed this movie, you could tell they knew the source material and they knew it front page to back page. And it just gives it sort of like a sense of nostalgia in a sense when you really watch this movie.
You know, I'm not sure I would agree with like the term realism. I'd say probably that's more along the lines of like The Dark Knight, considering like the technology that they use like for a realistic Batman. However, I do agree like with studying the character. I would say that these movies around these times were definitely more
like character driven, like character driven
heroes
stories
that are coming out.
Yeah.
I agree with Hatter, and because like a superhero story should not be realistic. Frankly, like a lot of the stuff they go through isn't, and especially Captain America's. Like he goes through a lot of like superhuman things at the dawn
Captain
of
America
the
become
superhero.
Captain America? Hey, sit in this pod, and we're just gonna pump a bunch of radiation into you. Surely this won't kill you, right?
And these drugs, but of like the special serum that they made. But yeah, like it is like created with this background of like this grounded take on Hydra, mainly inspired like from the Ultimate comics and like stuff like that to like give the aesthetic of the real world. But it is very much in the fantastical from, you know, its crazy feats that they have Captain America doing throughout the whole film, but also their core values, where the super soldier serum is like the ultimate precipice upon right and wrong of like entering these people whose core values injected with the serum can change the world to their whims. Captain America changes a nation to like his, you know, good value is of what he stands for. Not that might makes right, but that might can inspire good and kindness throughout, and like, you know, doing the right thing. While Red Skull gets the formula and, you know, inspires a change for the worst and destruction and like unification in the worst degrees under, you know, basically fire and death.
Yeah, it's like the, you know, the movies from this time are really like, you know, they're accepting of the source material and sort of like, you know, some of the goofy things about it, but they never really like try to make fun of like, oh, look at him, he's just in this tube or whatever. That's so funny. You know, it's just like, it's very much like accepting of the source material, but like going with it and making it feel like believable, like you can believe in that source material and everything, and not just like poking fun, like the Illuminati, you know, stuff like that. So it feels like just very, very genuine of the fantastical elements, that it has sort of the grounded realism, but it's willing to infuse these fantastical elements
in a way.
Just believe in these elements.
The grounded realism was more a disguise to what was to come, basically.
I was gonna say, like, when you brought up like actually respecting the lore and like not poking fun of it, I would say actually there is one part in here to where it is kind of like self-aware of the source material, but it does pay respect to it. And what I mean by that is like when the super soldier serum, god damn it,
it's a tongue twister.
The super soldier serum, yeah, I know, it's gonna be on my mind all day. The super soldier serum project goes tits up, and like Tommy Lee Jones is like, well, that didn't go well, I guess we're gonna scrap that idea. And like another like one, like the soldier's like, hold on, how would you like to really serve your country? And then he just puts them on Broadway. I mean, like it shows like how ridiculous that is, but it also like actually like pays it, like it actually serves a purpose for the progression of Steve Rogers' character. Like if it just came out to where like it just like, oh, isn't this funny? He's like a mascot now. Ha 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 ha. I'd say that'd be more disrespectful,
he's,
but like it's
selling
shows...
bail bonds. Like what?
Yeah, he's selling bonds on stage, but like it shows like
war bonds. I meant war bond. I meant war bonds, not bail bonds. My bad. I forgot. This is during World War II. It was war bonds is what it was.
Yeah, but they did that. They did do that back in World War II. Whenever like a person like won like a Medal of Honor, like a Purple Heart or something.
This was literally what Captain America was for. That's why they referenced the timely comics he originated from in this movie.
Right.
Because that was his purpose.
It's also funny what Hatter said is that during that scene, there's two things that they do. One, they have Chris Evans wear the original Captain America costume that's from the comics before he gets, you know, the updated one later in the movie. And then also we see the recreated famous comic cover of Captain America socking Hitler in the face.
Yeah. Fun.
Yeah, you get that iconic cover for his stage performance.
And we see it like 34 times that we see in that one scene alone. It's like, hey, remember this famous comic book cover? Well, we're going to do it again and again.
Milwaukee,
and again,
Chicago, New York.
Literally every time. I was like, okay.
And they even reference like another one later. Like, you know, it goes from that famous cover that started it to the ultimate comic of him leaping out with a more modern suit later without a parachute.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so that was like a clever use of like two panels showing his progression outside of, you know, outside of the plays and theater. Like, yeah.
Right. Yeah, but like I was saying, like the whole Broadway setup, like the whole like a mascot show, it really does help progress Steve Rogers' character, because like after he's like down in the dumps, it's like, oh yeah, look, I got in the army and I got I'm serving my country. I got everything I wanted. And then, like, he finds out that Bucky has been taken in by Hydra or the Nazi. I want to say the Nazis at the time before, like, Hydra eventually took over. But, like,
I mean,
he gets motivated to...
technically it's
Yeah, it's
Hydra
Hydra the whole
because
way. They just occasionally, like, the Nazis, like, supervised it and, you know, eventually were betrayed and deviated from Hydra.
Right. But, like,
Well, Hydra
the point
diverged
is
from
that... Right. But Bucky gets kidnapped with his platoon, and Steve Rogers finds out about this, and then he finds out, like, oh, yeah, we're not going to do anything about it. It's like a suicide mission. So, like, that's when he decides
He
to
assembles
step
the
up for
Suicide
himself.
Squad.
Yeah, he assembles the Suicide
the
Squad.
ultimate crossover.
Damn.
Hey, Joker, you wanted?
Best Captain America movie of all time.
Deadshot, you're with me.
This guy is a bit of a Joker, if you know what I mean.
Oh, God.
Please stop, please. I don't. That was right in my ear. I don't want those flashbacks, please. We don't talk about that.
We're talking about that next episode. Stay tuned.
Morbid time, Buck.
Next G-Day.
The movie was such a dumpster fire.
But yeah, like, yeah, he puts on, like, the A helmet from, like, his troop, and then the dance troupe at the shows, and then, yeah, then goes off.
Yeah, poor girl. Like when he stole
She
like
lost
the
her
helmet.
man.
He's like,
Tragic.
"Where's my helmet?" He's like, "Where's Rogers?"
He's truly a villain for that, man. I can't forgive him.
Captain America stole something, therefore he's
The villain arc begins.
It's like the reverse
I just like
thing
how
from like the Dark Knight.
Like of all the disguise. I just like the disguise that he actually chose when he went in to go save Bucky. He just throws on his Captain America shirt, and then he just throws on a typical typical bomber jacket from one of the pilots, and then some cargo pants with some helmet. And he's like, okay, I blend right in. It's like, technically, yeah, but it's like he just took a bunch of random stuff from the base, got on a bike, and just booked it. He's like, I'll be back.
I still find it hilarious of, like, the one scene of him trying to prove to the Howling Commandos that he can do this is like, you know, oh yeah, I punched Hitler in like 20 times, so, you know, I got this.
They're like, what the hell? How do you do that?
And they just look at each other.
Yeah,
and they're
it's
like, wait, what? Really?
How much of the
One of
war do
them-
we miss, guys?
I want to say like Neil
Like,
McDonough.
how far behind
like,
are we?
I want to say like Neil McDonough's character was like, ooh,
Dum,
like he
dum,
was
dum.
impressed.
He's like,
Yeah.
damn, I wish I did that.
I
What?
actually forget that.
Dun, dun, dun,
I forget
chicken
that Neil
nose.
McDonough. Every time I see this movie, this is one of those movies where, like, you know that it has so many like recognizable faces in it, but you forget that they're in the movie. Like when I see Neil McDonough with the he looks like he's trying to cosplay Captain Price from Call of Duty. I'm like,
does,
oh,
doesn't he?
I forget. No, he does. It's the same mustache and everything, but it's like I forget that that's him. And then you see like Tommy Lee Jones is the platoon general, but the whole time his I know it's a different name in the movie. But every time I see Tommy Lee Jones on screen, I always think, wait, is he George Patton? But he's not. And I'm just like, I don't know why they didn't decide to make him George Patton or like give him a movie role for that. That actually would have been a really good idea for that time.
Yeah.
But
Speaking
you
of
have,
Tommy,
Chris
Tommy Lee Jones, I kid you not, I love it's. Tommy Lee Jones has a very simple like acting method, but like his deliveries, I just find so comical, especially like when like all like his soldiers are that are set for like the Captain America program. He's like they're all doing push-ups, and he looks at Steve. He's like, "Look at that, he's making me cry."
He's making me cry. He's just so honest. He's like,
Oh,
look at him. He's
beautiful.
making me cry. And which actually leads to one of the best scenes that shows the heart of Steve Rogers' character. He pulls out a dummy grenade from the back of the truck, and he goes, "You don't win wars with niceness. You win wars with guts." He tosses it, and everybody books it, and the only person that falls on it is Steve. And then he just gets up, realizes it's fake, and he's like, "Is this a test?"
I love
And
that
Tommy
scene.
and Tommy Lee Jones walks away and he's like, he's still skinny.
He's still
I'm
skinny.
like, dude, he just proved to you that he's the best soldier on this entire base. Who cares if he's skinny?
Yeah, the thing was, though, it was like the whole concept that, like, you know, bigger would be better there of most of the soldiers, except for Erskine in terms of recognizing what
I
they
also like
needed.
the other scene in the boot camp when they're doing I think it's the mile run, or it's the run that the whole platoon does, and they get to the flagpole and they all can't get up of it, and then as soon as Rogers goes up to it, he just pulls the pin and then takes the
he's just
flag
had
off, and it's like he's like, I'm done, I'm getting a free ride. But I love that because it shows that he works smarter, not harder. And like everyone's trying to climb. He's like the drill sergeant. He's like, no one's been able to get that flag in 50 years. And I'm like, really? So in 50 years, no one decided. So in 50 years, no one decided to look down at the pole post and realize that, oh, you just got to pull the pin out.
They got a lot of idiots.
Cool.
Yeah, this movie, it does a really good job of showing and not telling, which, oh my God. I
does.
feel like a lot of movies, and especially like TV shows nowadays, they really don't seem to understand how effective that method is.
Like, in terms of action and dialogue at the same time, this is a Captain America film that can demonstrate both in several degrees within their 3-act structure. Like, your dialogue sets up your point, but Steve does not truly understand it until his actions persist later, when he actually faces the Red Skull and faces Erskine's mistake and realizes, you know, what could happen if, you know, his plan is not in fruition.
You know, that was something I was concerned about when I first saw this movie, was like, how are we gonna like fit in like all these like lasers that Hydra / the Nazis would have, and like how would we put in like our history books. Little did I know in the future, they just said, you know what, fuck it, they had lasers and they just never paid attention to it. And
Nazis had lasers.
Yeah, Nazis had lasers. Who would have thunk it? But I don't know. I guess to me, it's not really that much of that of a concern. I guess especially like when you're gonna show like why this opposition was advancing back in that time period, just to kind of make sense, I guess.
I mean, it's a good question,
It's
but
like-
again, like,
It's like, oh, why? It's like, oh, why are the Nazis really winning the war? They have fucking lasers.
They have lasers.
yeah.
True.
But then the Howling Commandos stole the lasers.
I'm a firing my laser.
Like, the Howling Commandos stole the
It's like-
lasers over time, like during Captain America's big rescue scene, and like,
It reminds me of the freaking Doctor Who episode when they travel back in time to Winston Churchill in World War II, and it's when London is getting bombed by the Nazis, and then it's like every time they try to send the freaking planes, they get shot down. They're like, oh, why are they getting shot down? Oh, it's because they have the British are using a future technology reason. That's why.
Oh, of course, yes.
like they had Howard Stark, they had the stolen Hydra tech, like, you know, the Americans like had a whole bunch of advantages against the Nazis in this continuity to still give them the victory.
They really did.
Along
And
with, you know,
I
Captain
also like the
America.
scene- I like the scene between when you actually see how Captain America gets the shield in this continuity compared to how he got it in the comics, because in the comics he actually got his shield from President FDR. But in the movie, they have it to where it's between him and Howard Stark, and the shield is actually a scrap material left over of vibranium that's just sitting on the side. And Stark is like, oh, I've got all these cool shields here that I want you to try. This one, you might like this one. And then he goes, oh, what's this? And he goes, oh, no, that's a prototype. And I'm like, prototype? Dude, it's the rarest metal on Earth, and you say it's a vibration absorbent, like
Howard.
like, and then
And
literally,
that's a prototype.
he goes, that's a prototype, and he goes, wait, why is it not standard issue? That's the rarest metal on Earth. I'm like, okay, so if it's the rarest
Why'd you
metal
use
on
it in a
Earth, why didn't you just make that the main one? And then Peggy comes out of nowhere and goes. And like, because she's still mad at Steve, he's like, hey, what do you think? She just shoots him like 4 times in the
Imagine if it just
shield.
didn't
She's
work.
like,
Yeah,
Yeah, imagine if it went right. Imagine if it went right through it.
It bounced off and like it ricocheted all over the room and just hit him in the leg or something, or it just hits her right in the head.
Yeah,
She's lucky.
That's
I'd
the
say
funny
it
thing.
works, Cap.
That's the funny thing I never understood about Captain America's shield is that it absorbs vibration, but for some reason it can bounce off walls like a damn frisbee. Like
Yeah.
Like in the main
I will
comics,
never-
it's like different, like, you know, the different sides of the shield where, like, you know, there's one circle is red, you know, one is white in order to create the,
Yeah.
like, American flag color. It's because those different circles are made of different materials. It's partial, like,
Oh,
some
really?
circles are adamantium, aka Wolverine's claws, and some are vibranium. They could not do that here because, well, a certain company owns Wolverine's
because-
claws at this point.
Yeah.
I was gonna make it.
So yeah, it's basically a complete vibranium shield.
I was gonna make a joke. It's like saying like no. That's just a prototype. Well, what's it made out of? Adamant. I mean, a vibranium.
We can't say some sort of metal that we found somewhere.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
so-
still technically
we-
vibranium, even in the comics. It's just only 50% vibranium.
Yeah, we found
Yeah,
we
but
found that
it's
metal
actually-
in
it's-
Antarctica.
But it's funny.
In the
It's funny
jungle.
funny you mentioned that with the adamantium thing because this is actually a little tidbit about Captain America: The First Avenger. The director originally wanted to get Hugh Jackman's Wolverine to make a guest appearance in this movie, but the problem was obviously at the time they couldn't do this because the director came out years later and. The director came out years later and said this and actually said that Marvel prevented him from doing it because, well, they didn't have the money at the time and they couldn't get the rights back. But could you imagine how much cooler this movie would have been if Hugh Jackman's Wolverine was
Well,
side by side with
I,
Captain America?
Well,
Could you
at
imagine
the
how
time-
cool that would have been?
At the time, I believe this was on my Paramount, so I can just imagine Paramount like just going up to the director. He's like, "Hey, I want to add in Wolverine," and then like Paramount's like, "Yeah, no."
It's like,
sorry.
what? Are you nuts?
No, we
No.
can't do
Man.
that. But it's
Yeah.
Marvel.
Paramount-
well,
Yeah.
that's other Fox Marvel, but we're Paramount,
Paramount
Marvel, so
They very
Paramount
much
looked at
were
him
more
and-
scared of it than even Disney on the whole rights issue.
Oh
there.
yeah,
Par-
oh yeah.
Paramount
For Disney,
Paramount
it was
looked
more
at the
like
director-
soon.
Yeah.
Soon.
yeah.
All we have to do is actually it'd be like from The Hobbit. It's like, I am patient. I can wait.
I can wait.
Exactly.
Yeah. We'll have you eventually. But yeah, they even eventually explained this discrepancy though, like in terms of the MCU version of the Shield though, because like by Black Panther they end up like explaining that, you know, the Wakandans managed to manipulate vibranium for certain features as well for their own society. So like yeah, they managed
I
to
think
eventually
if I'm
fit
correct,
that in.
if I'm correct in the comics, I don't know which one is stronger, but is one of them to where it's like it's so strong that in order to manipulate it, you have to melt it?
Actually, I can answer this because I did research on it for my Wolverine project. So adamantium is basically like invincible like once it's hardened. It's kind of like what they said in X-Men 2 when it's like basically indestructible, but you got to keep it hot so you can actually like use it. But
That's why they put it on
vibranium,
Hugh Jackman.
that's exactly right. Now he's invincible. But
Kept it something eternally hot.
vibranium-
So, yeah.
Right. He's internally hot, so that's how it works. But vibranium is actually like a pretty weak metal, so it works better if you bond it with other metals.
Which is what they did with Cap's
okay.
shield. They combined it with vibranium and therefore allowed it to be eternally bonded. So that way, you know, Cap doesn't have to give his shield
Because
a
that's
heat
what I
bath
was-
every week.
Now I know
That's what I
that
was
you didn't listen to my Wolverine project, Kane.
Oh my god.
What?
Christopher was
All
there.
the humanity.
Christopher was there.
was
He
there.
starred in it. Look at it. You're making him cry.
Ironically, I listened to Wolverine, but because of my job, I have not listened to Spider-Man yet. And like, yeah,
Oh, no.
that's the one more well-known, I guess.
Godspeed, Spider-Man.
But, I mean, mainly, you know, I made it an obligation because, you know, what I do, but yeah. But also, yeah, for Hatter as well. But yeah, anyway, when it comes to the shield, like, yeah, that was the whole explanation in terms of the fantastical element, and yeah, they keep like such amazing details like with that shield as well, because the gunshots that we mentioned of like Peggy shooting the shield, those stay on the shield. Like
Yeah,
that's the one part that they did not paint.
It's symbolic, you see, because that's the only one who has managed to hurt Captain America.
Yep. It's very much like, that very sentimental
Dude,
vibes.
if you think about it,
He carries
like,
the scars
this was,
of Peggy.
Well, no, if you think about it, that shield has been through so much wear and tear throughout the MCU's history. It's got it's been shot at. Black Panther's claws have been on it.
Yeah.
Bombs have exploded on it. Knives have been on it. I'm sure you could go back on I'm sure you could go back on the history and see all the scratches and dings and stuff.
It's watched Captain America try to choke a robot in Age of Ultron.
I know, right?
I actually, I'm not gonna lie. I really wish that
What the
when
fuck are you
Endgame
doing?
had came out, when Endgame came out much later on in the MCU, I kind of wish that they would have kept, instead of making the shield look clean and brand new every single time, which I get it because marketing.
Yeah.
But I kind of wish they would have kept all of the scratches and all the damage and wear as the years went on, because it would have shown just how much that shield and how much Cap is really.
It actually would definitely be.
They did. It was
Did
in
it?
Avengers Endgame. After all that wear and tear, it finally broke off. I mean, it surprised the hell out of me.
Yeah, it broke
Like, going
apart.
back on
It's
it,
like,
true,
yeah.
that makes
I
sense.
That was why,
forgot.
he got gave a brand new one to Sam at the end of that movie, because it was shattered apart, which is a reference
Gotta go
to
the store,
the,
get a new shield real quick.
which was a reference
Hold on,
to
guys, I gotta- hold on,
future vision that Tony received in Age of Ultron was of the shield broken in half, and then that came true with Thanos, where the shield is broken apart, and once again, Steve goes back to that initial message of Erskine without the shield, that he is just a good man, that lifts up his worthiness literally in Thor's hammer, fights the good fight.
I know, it's funny. They actually make it seem like Captain America's shield, you actually have to be worthy to... it's more of an honor to hold Captain America's shield than to hold Thor's hammer. That's how much they paid attention to the shield.
Yeah, right.
And it's symbolic in a way beyond just the U.S., but really just Steve's own ideals,
Well, because
how funny,
if I'm correct,
how funny would it be if there was a cartoon where it's Thor's sees some guy hold up the hammer, is you are worthy. He's oh, cool, Thor's hammer, and then in here, hold this, and it's Captain America's shield.
I needn't dare hold this.
But if
Only for the worthy.
I'm correct, because real quick, if I'm correct in the comics, isn't Captain America as a character supposed to symbolize what America is supposed to stand for, or what America should be? Or is it something along those lines?
It's like
he's not meant to be what America is. He's meant to be an inspiration for what America should be. Yeah.
Right. It's kind of
beyond
Superman
just
thing to where it's
America alone,
the truth, justice, and better tomorrow kind of thing.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. So I feel like the shield is kind of the same way, where it's if you really want to hold Cap's shield, you really got to embody that kind of oh, you should be the inspiration for what should come.
Right, and I think that's what they kind of pour more into God damn it, I said into twice. Captain America: The Winter Soldier, because that's when they get in the whole updated theories of that was your world back in the 1940s to 50s, but now nobody trusts each other. Our neighbors are on the urge of just the gun owners are just waiting for someone to intrude into their house to use their guns. I'm paraphrasing, but the idea is
exact line.
That's exactly what Nick Fury said. But the idea is nobody really trusts each other, and then Captain America holds those ideals in the Winter Soldier to try to bring back the idea of trusting one another, trust thy neighbor, have hope in people.
Yeah, I think it was Winter Soldier was it went from, I think, what is it, to the fear of terror in another part of the world to domestic terror is what that fear went to.
Right.
World War II was Cap's first challenge of what the ultimate threat meant, and as things went on, it was a constant challenge to his values over time.
When more people
Like,
like
until
the modern age and everything.
the end of his journey. Like, yeah.
He went from being a simple soldier in World War II to when he came back, he was just he's just another spec ops agent. And it's like, okay. I mean, he can still do justice, but just not the way that I'm sure he intended. And then eventually he figures it out.
In a way, it's like a constant push to the sidelines of his value, a conflict with what everyone else believes is, the ideals of the world and what should be. Like, the first movie, he's tossed aside to be, a poster boy for their own propaganda for to promote rather than to inspire. And then the second film, he's tossed aside again to be, a simple secret agent, one distraction for the real mission behind everyone's back, as like a secret agent where nobody knows the true story, and Captain America's own standing of truth is against that. And the third one, tossed aside again by his own team of the Avengers, of his values, and Captain America once again does not stand on, being like put to the side and given orders of what who he wishes to save and who he wishes to protect.
That I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's something I really wish the Captain America movies would have highlighted more on, was like not just Captain America's character, but like his character interacting with other characters, like to really show like the difference of like how isolated he feels from like everybody else. Like if they showed in like the First Avenger, to where he's like interacting like with just like average Joes, like saying like hey, you're that Captain America fella, oh, it's like let me give you a handshake there, like, and that wouldn't happen in like today, because like, oh cool, can I get like a selfie? He's like, all right, bye.
Yeah.
Like it really doesn't show. I don't think like where it fails like for his character, or not really fails, but more is a disservice for Steve Rogers' character, is how isolated and alienated he feels later on when he's out of like the 40s and the 50s to the modern day. I mean, it shows Chris Evans being sad.
I kind of get that because. Well, I kind of get that because even though he is a man out of time, it's also a representation of like, when soldiers, when they go to war and then they come, it's kind of like the scene in Daredevil when him and Punisher are talking on the rooftop, and he goes, sometimes some people enlist, and sometimes when they go to war, it changes them. They come back home and they realize home's not there anymore. They changed, or maybe that home changed, or maybe they did. And I feel like that kind of hits home for Cap years on, is that he's trying to adjust to the idea of coming home. The problem is the home that he's in is so vastly different from when he left. It's like, it's really hard for him to adjust to it.
Like, it's a different metaphor for that return, just like in the
I never thought of it that way. I think maybe it's because it's such a big change. Which, now that you mention it, I can see where you're coming from. Like, I can see like what the metaphor is supposed to be, but like since it's such a big change for Captain America,
but it's still a very drastic change, because you threw him 70 years into the future. He's like, hey, the last time he saw a car, the cars were like made of steel, and then he gets into the future and it's like, oh, all these cars they're small, they're run on electricity. Like, he used to be in New York when it was
plastic.
Yeah, they're plastic. Like, the scene that really hammered it for me is like at the end when he wakes up in the hospital and they try to play it off that he's back in the 1940s.
Oh my god! Okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to
radio.
I need to rant about this. Why the hell did they pick Why didn't they pick a baseball game after he went into the ice? Because out of all the baseball games, they end up picking the one that he was in either before or
1941
when he was in the army. Yeah,
1941.
So that
wasn't even trying to enlist.
What the hell are you doing? Pick something after he went into the ice.
Right?
No, and here's the worst part about that is that they picked a Brooklyn Dodgers game from 1941. Okay, that's because Steve is from Brooklyn, so we assume he's a Dodgers fan. Here's the problem. He lived in New York in the 1940s. They had two other baseball teams, the New York Giants and the New York Yankees. You're telling me that you couldn't have chosen a Yankees radio broadcast in like 1943, or the New York, or Willie Mays making the "Say Hey" catch in like 1945 or something? Like, that would have made more sense, because he probably wouldn't be able to tell, like, you could have played that game and then he wouldn't be able to know that, oh, that's a year after when he enlisted, because, well, he was fighting the war, so he probably lost track of time. But no, you used a game that he actually went to? Like, really?
I understand that, like, they don't know that he went to that game, but, like, they should, like, just to be safe, pick something after his events, when he stopped, like, being in the war, technically.
They did, like, tie-ins to the movies around this time of, like, you know, adventures going on in between with, like, the different supporting characters. This one, particular around this time, was called Fury's Big Week. Basically, in the continuity of the MCU, Thor 1, The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, they all took place in the same week.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yep.
Yeah.
Wait,
in certain points of the movies,
so
but yeah.
So Iron Man and Hulk took place in the same time?
Yep.
No, Iron Man 2.
Yeah, Iron Man 2.
Iron Man 2,
1.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would definitely not make sense.
So how it goes down is that this is basically what the map was. Iron Man 2 and the Incredible Hulk go down at the same time. And then just a few days later, Thor's hammer shows up in the Nevada, I think it's the New Mexico desert. And then a day after that is when Cap is waking up from the ice.
My point is that, like,
1 week.
What, like, I'd pay for, like, a different comic, like, around, on this time of, like, Coulson basically learning about the blunder that they made when it came to Captain America waking up and, like, the specific baseball game that they set up for him, and just going nuts.
Yeah.
Just like, why didn't you get the dates right? I had, like, a million VHSs right here.
You had one job.
It's like someone higher than Coulson, like, just not taking them seriously. It's like, okay, yeah, rookie, we know what to do here. It's like, no, listen, I've got, like, a whole bunch of stuff listed out that you can use. Okay, you know what? And, like, out of spite, he's like, we're gonna use this one. Thanks for your help, Pipsqueak. Thanks, buddy. Have some, like,
can't tell the difference.
Exactly.
But here's the thing, like, because you have to, but you also have to remember the New York that Captain America grew up in was a lot of, like, you know, the stone and concrete, you know, like the Art Deco 1920s style skyscrapers. And then he wakes up and then he runs out into Times Square, and it goes from being, you know, all these, like, Art Deco buildings to just being surrounded by billboards and flat screen TVs. And he's just absolutely, like, he doesn't know where he is.
Set up, like, a base in Times Square, apparently.
Yeah, maybe should have gone upstate or something.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, like, and then they had the audacity to tell him, he's like, look, I'm sorry about all that, but we just wanted to break it to you slowly. Well, what do you mean break it to me? He's like, oh, you've been asleep for 70 years. And then he's just like, he doesn't know what to say. I'm like, you could have made it a little bit easier than that. Like, you didn't have to be that blunt.
We wanted to break it to you slowly, so we moved you to Times Square.
Yeah.
The center of civilization.
Like, one of the noisiest places in all of New York.
Like, literally one, like, honking horn, and, like, their entire operation would have been blown.
Yeah, and
Everybody
it's
be
funny
quiet.
because
We got Captain America in there.
Imagine if, like,
imagine
if, like, they actually were successful, like the baseball game thing, like, worked. It's like, okay, Captain Rogers, we need you to take a step outside, and, like, he's aware that he's in the future, and he, like, looks at Times Square, and he's like, what the hell is that?
Like, I get the feeling he'd freak out no matter how many steps that they had went through here.
Right. At some point, he's gonna freak out. He's gonna break.
Who planned this one?
Yeah, like, hold on. I'm gonna look up what that looked like. Because I know there was, like, a bunch of billboards and stuff.
Like, I get the feeling, like, the only way to actually do this right would be like, okay, damn, he was actually fooled by that game. All right, so Cap, I'm glad we've woken you up, but now you gotta go to sleep again. I've been asleep for 70 years.
Back in the ice you go, buddy.
Yeah, so, like,
just to move you.
He wakes up at So he wakes up in Times Square. This is what's in front of him. He's got the giant screen that's showing like something for a movie. There's a McDonald's restaurant. There's a TJ Maxx. There's a Bank of America. There's a Coca-Cola. It's like these are all things that he has no idea.
Like all the
these
stuff that was broadcasting like back in 2011. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I just
All the stuff
like,
that Disney had to
that
blur.
also gets me.
Because they're movies that they don't
What
own.
also gets me with that scene. What gets me with that scene is that there was actually a deleted part of dialogue that they shot for that scene where when he wakes up and right after Nick Fury tells him, where he's like, he's been asleep for 70 years. In the deleted scene, he actually responds by saying, oh, wait, did we win the war? He goes, oh, yeah, unconditional surrender from both sides. But then he goes on this rant of like, but you see, there's still enemies out there. The world still needs a soldier like you, Cap. And he just shakes his hand, and then you see the rest of the scene where he's like looking around.
I don't
like,
feel that
"You
would have worked.
I'm like,
Yeah.
it didn't work. It's like when he says the line of, oh yeah, unconditional surrender. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that would have made him feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
But
No. That's way too hand wavy
Like,
too. Like,
is-
you know,
Yeah.
especially
No, it
given
really
the characterization
was.
of Cap throughout this whole thing of like questioning, you know, he very much was a thinker throughout this whole thing, and him just like unconditionally being like, oh yes, the US have won, God bless America. Like,
I also
putting the movie
I
there.
really do feel I really do feel bad
Just,
for Cap
God
after
bless
this because
America,
the next
and the credits.
because like the next because like
It's why it's far more effective. Like when you reach the Avengers, you know, he then ends up like saying,
Yeah, we
you said
we
we
get to
won,
the Avengers and
and
he's like,
you didn't and
he's
say what we
trying to,
lost. Like, yeah,
I just like the one place that he went to that felt like home is that he went to an old gym that clearly has not been renovated since the 1940s, and that's the only place that he felt comfortable. Like he's walking like through downtown Manhattan and he's like seeing, or like I'm assuming it's uptown Manhattan because it's by the Central Park. But it's like he's walking through all these shops and like he sees this girl that like offers him like free Wi-Fi and he's like, wait, radio? And then just Stan Lee's right next to him, like, just ask her for her number, you
idiots.
moron.
yeah. It was. I believe
like-
the waitress in the deleted scene was the same one that he saves later in the Avengers. So it was like meant to pay that off.
That's
yeah,
true.
because she was on the
Played
news.
by
Also,
played by
can
Ashley
we-
Johnson.
She was
Also,
she was on the news
Yeah.
saying that Captain America saved my life.
can we give credit to Cap where like when he's sitting down at the cafe and he's actually a really good artist because the way he was able to draw Stark Tower in front of him on the little notepad, like I was actually impressed by that. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, that's really cool that he can even draw, like he can draw that good.
It is like
Yeah,
an
for example,
interesting
there's even, like, the
history
scene
there
in
of like
1922.
contradictions showing Captain America's flaws too. Of like in addition to his skill, as you mentioned, with the drawing. Because yeah, he like drew the circus monkey, and like he is a nerd. Like he was very much fascinated by Howard Stark and his inventions.
He really
And
is,
like
if you
owes
think
him, of
about
course, for like, you know, making the chamber that turned him into a super soldier. So and like, yeah, very much clearly admires like Stark Tower and stuff. But like when he sees Tony and like is very annoyed by him, he like has to pretend that he doesn't like it and goes like, you know, oh, that big ugly building in New York. And like, like it shows that Cap's privy to flaws as well, as like being this like great hero as well. Like
The nerd
admire
trying to
that.
pretend not
what's
to be
funny-
a nerd.
Yeah.
Well, here's another funny tidbit about the whole Captain America thing, and I actually found this out after Endgame came out. Apparently, and this was actually Kevin Feige's goal, but it didn't happen because Stan Lee unfortunately passed away right after Endgame came out. Captain America, you remember the scene in Endgame when Cap shows up and he's old and he's talking to Sam and he gives him the shield?
Oh wait, let me guess. It was Stan Lee going to be old Captain America?
It was supposed to be Stan Lee. So that was the original plan, but it didn't happen because Stan Lee passed away right before they could film that scene. So think about this. If they were able to go along with that original plan, that basically
Captain America would have been
means that
everywhere.
America is all.
literally- he was literally talking to his younger self at the cafe. He was like, ask her for a number, you idiot. And
Well,
I'm
not
like,
just
dude,
that.
it's
He
you.
would have been talking to
Yes,
the
whoa,
Watchers
whoa,
in
whoa.
space.
Yeah, exactly.
Steve, how'd you get
Like,
there,
think
man?
about it. Like, think about it. That meant that was originally supposed to be the plan. So it's like old Stan Lee's cameos was supposed to be Captain America. But here's the one that gets me. Stan Lee also has a cameo as an old man, like a retired veteran, in Captain America: The First Avenger when they're trying to give him an award and he's not there. And I'm like, well, wait a second. Yeah, and I'm like, wait a second. How does that work?
Yeah, it kind of draws more questions, especially considering he's appeared in like material long before Captain America and stuff. Like, I think him being an unknown informant of the Watchers of like this cosmic scale worked far better there in that degree. Even if it still would have been spiritually very cool.
That and they made him younger in Endgame when
there's that
Captain
too,
America
like,
and Iron Man
Yeah,
traveled back.
they made him look like how he did in the 70s.
Right, so it's already inconsistent. So I already kind of like the idea that Stan Lee is just some guy that just happens to be everywhere.
He is just Stan Lee operating the cosmos by his whims.
Just what are we, Stan Lee?
Just everywhere, yeah.
That's just it. Yeah. His real life story.
So we got about 10 minutes before we got to wrap things up. So I know we talked about this a little bit before, but something I really wanted to talk about a bit more was the casting. What do you guys think about the casting? Because I personally think everybody brought their A game for this movie.
Yeah. Like,
I think this is one of the best castings.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
I think it's one of the best. You have like Chris
Hugo
Evans.
Weaving, man.
Oh my God.
Hugo Weaving.
Hugo
Tommy Lee
Weaving's like
Jones.
good in everything that he's in.
He is. What are we?
He really
amazing
is.
job with Red
It's
Skull.
like he's one of those like you have Hugo Weaving, Chris Evans, Sebastian Stan, Neil McDonough, Tommy Lee Jones. I mean, just the list goes on and on and on of like so many familiar faces that you know from other projects, and they just fit for the characters that they play in this movie.
Yeah.
Especially for Hugo Weaving, I was going to say, like, something I really like about the way that he portrays Red Skull is that for one part in the movie that I can remember, to where he asks, I think we talked about this last time we tried this before. This was totally planned. We didn't pre-record this before. Don't ask questions. They're dangerous. Anyway, was when he asks Cap, like, what made you so special? And he says, nothing, I'm just a kid from Brooklyn. And then he lashes out. But like every other time he talks to Captain America, he like puts on a vibrato that he's always in control. It's like, Captain America, nice to see you again. Oh, I should probably use the German accent. Captain America, it is so nice to see you again.
I am a big fan of your films.
Yeah, I am a big fan of your films. And whenever he gets angry, it's towards his own men.
Like a mark of respect.
The scene when he's talking to Zola, it's like, you are failing.
It's directly at the camera, directly
We
to
are on the
us.
verge of a victory that could change the world, but you're too lazy. Men can't even stop a simpleton with a shield.
How funny if he says that and like Captain America shows up right behind him. Captain America, you're right on time.
Yeah, it's like that scene. It's like that scene from the Adam West Batman show where it's like, you can say that
over the phone, Batman, but if I had you here, I'd pound you to a pulp.
Start pounding, Joker.
Like, it is a relationship built on animosity is recreated perfectly by these two.
That scene of Red Skull is my favorite in the movie because that to me is probably what really sold me for him as Red Skull for Hugo Weaving is that right at the end of that scene, you see the one Hydra soldier pops up and he's like, sir, we tried, we fought to the last man, and he just pulls out his pistol and he goes, evidently not, and just shoots him. And I'm like, now that's Red Skull. Now that's what I'm talking about. That was that's good right there.
Definitely not the Red Skull that eats Professor X's brain.
Wait, what?
That's for Captain America 4.
That's for shh.
Yeah.
You didn't hear that from me.
What's the next one supposed to be called? The New World Order?
Brave New World.
Brave New World.
Basically named after the first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
They had to change the name because they had to change that name because
has a lot of baggage to it. Yeah.
Well,
New World Order's been used in a lot of negative stuff.
Conspiratorial. Yeah.
Well, yeah, there was also another title that they were going to go with too, but I forgot what it was. It's been so long already.
Yeah.
I think it was the first one that they were going to use.
Yeah, that
Serpent
was. I
Society.
think they were trying to reuse the one from Captain America: Civil War, like basically their substitute title for that one. Basically, to once again throw people off the scent. Where at this point, where I'm like, you know, you can't use that again. Like, even if I definitively know that the Serpent Society has been cast, I'm not buying it. I'm gonna be like, nope, they're playing a whole bunch of other characters. You're just hiding it from me. You're using the Serpent Society as a curtain at this point. To block off something else. What is it? What is it? Is the Master's Eel? Is that what you got under there?
Masters, or worse, it'd be intelligentsia.
Yep. It's all that. Like,
And what the worst part is, it's the She-Hulk version.
Classic.
I mean, like, the whole thing, not only just in its villains, but also, like, yeah, in its supporting cast, really, like, reflecting off of, like, S. Evans, as well as, like, doing their own thing with such charisma.
Fantastic.
Yeah, like, Howling Commandos, like, you could very much cast them all as, like, bit parts, but, like, yeah, they definitely go all the way with them. And, like, actually...
That freaking Union Jack in there, man.
I do wish they had a bit more time, like, to spend with Howling Commandos, but I understand, like, the movie probably would have been too bloated if, like, they focused on, like, every
it's mainly just to
character.
establish them and, like, you know, who knows if, you know, they need to use them later, which they did in some ways. Like, they end up establishing
Agent
legacies for a few of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, in Agent Carter, they end up returning, which is amazing.
The guy, the principal from Midtown High is like his
that's his grandson.
Or grandson.
Yeah,
Rita.
and then
Rita,
same thing when it came to another character from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Anton Triplet is like the grandson of one of the Howling Commandos as well.
Speaking of, what do you guys think of Agent Carter in Captain America's? I thought, like, there is, like, no other person like this in, like, any other, like, solo.
I think she was
she's so different from the comics, but it works so well. Like, she's like, I believe she's American. She has
really
like blonde
does.
hair and stuff, but like, no.
Yeah, they add in like such nuance with this one, like immediately with like her charisma and bluntness.
It also makes sense for the time. It makes sense for the time period because if you think about it, America and Britain were allies during World War II, and technically speaking, Agent Carter is, you would say that she's part of MI6.
And America also entered the war later after them.
Yeah, so it would honestly make sense that's like, okay, if there's anyone that America really needs to get intel from, it's obviously the best agent from MI6. That's
after
like,
after one of the characters like questions, you know, why Agent Carter was there due to her being British, they immediately go into the SSR explanation that would be the foundation for S.H.I.E.L.D.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You see, it's like poetry. It sort of rhymes.
Indeed, like there's very much like a lot of elements that connect throughout this whole
George
series.
Lucas.
And yeah, Haley Atwell as Agent Carter definitely lives up to the hype in terms of, you know, capturing that center of like everything there, of what goes forward as like the foundation to what was to come.
Yeah, very disappointed that her series didn't go on past 2 seasons, but
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it was a great.
I was thankful that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. towards the end, like tried to at least recover some sort of ending there and continuation for its characters.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to me was kind of disappointing because I knew it was a Marvel TV show, but I thought that because it's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and considering how big S.H.I.E.L.D. was in the MCU, I thought it was going to be a bit more like grand and a little bit more like, I don't know, like more to it, but I don't know.
I mean, S.H.I.E.L.D. did fall like in like what, like the second or third
the
season.
first season, actually.
About that.
Yeah, that's true.
That was such a smart decision to do. It's like, I think I've already joked about this before in the podcast, where it's like, hey, guys, Kevin Feige goes over to, like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. like, hey, how you guys doing over there? Oh, we're doing great. We got, like, a next season built up, and, like, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s going to be stronger than ever. Yeah, about that. S.H.I.E.L.D.'s actually Hydra.
Yeah, stronger than ever, huh?
I mean, actually, it changed the show, like, amazingly. Like, they had a whole twist.
It was really good.
And, like, I actually saw the twist on the show before I saw Winter Soldier, so yeah. That definitely
we gotta get
just
there now! Put in that twist now!
Like it was definitely really cool there, and like Agent Carter even had like crossovers. Like that was the first like sort of TV show crossovers in terms of Marvel. Like it wasn't in Daredevil or any of those. It was like this one was where it started. Era-based crossovers. Which bridged the gap in a lot of ways. Like the earlier question on the laser guns, like the show bridged the gap on how that technology spreads, how it is then contained afterwards in a very like proto-Shield way.
And my personal favorite is when Agent Carter witnesses Hank Pym slam down one of the directors of Shield because he makes him mad.
Yeah.
But,
like they consistently use her, and like that's the power of Haley Atwell, and like
she's in like
well, that's because she's such a great actress. I mean, you might as well. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I can get a lot of good scenes.
Continuing use her, and
they even made her Captain Carter from the What If series live action. I was like, yes, let's go. Like that's what I'm talking about.
For 5 minutes.
Like that.
They kept her around for a long time.
Kept her around for a long time.
Yeah, I think if I'm correct, isn't she like the longest standing actor from the MCU like crew, like the one that's been in the most movies?
It would not surprise me if she was.
It might,
because she
is very much getting close there for media.
She's been in all the Captain America movies. She's had her own TV show. She was in Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness. She was in What If.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so, like, she's been in a lot.
She's also been in a few Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episodes as well. Like,
she's been in a lot.
Yeah, it's true.
And hopefully we'll see her more in the future. But with that, we're
maybe even in the next episode of the podcast.
Maybe the next episode. Like maybe we'll get her on for the next episode to talk about Iron Man. That was all planned out. That was the plan.
Yeah, she's a big fan of Iron Man.
Happy 4th of July.
Yeah, of course. But anyway, thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for putting up with our rants and our love for Captain America. If you would like to comment, please do. We need feedback. Give us feedback, okay? So, like, just like the other day, I was like talking to like one of our quote unquote producers, and he's like, "Hey, maybe you should do this." And I thought, maybe I should do this. Yeah. So please give us feedback. What you think, what you would like to hear. And if you're going to comment, you have to insult us first, and it will go directly to us. You can't insult anybody else in the comments. I know, I've tried, it doesn't work. So be sure to insult us first, and then leave your feedback or your comment, your concerns, anything. And if you'd like to join the show, doesn't matter who you are, writer, actor, average Joe, ask to be on the show. We should have my email down there if you want to come right on. Just be sure to ask first. Ask nicely. Thank you very much for anybody.
Don't just hack into the server. Yeah. We already had a hacker last time.
We know you. We know you're there. We'll find you. But anyway, thank you very much for listening. I've been your host. I've been your host, the Funny Hatter. I've had Space Wiz, Victor the X-Man, and Lizard King / Sedona Cosplay. Thank you guys very much for coming on, and we will see you all next time on Iron Man. Bye-bye.
See you on the next episode. Bye-bye.
We're going to actually be in the Iron Man movie?
Finally.
Yeah.
America, fuck yeah! Coming again to save the motherfucking day, yeah! America, fuck yeah! Terrorists, your game is through. 'Cause now you have to answer to America. Fuck yeah. So lick my butt and suck on my balls. America. Fuck yeah. What you gonna do when we come for you?
What? Are you saying that me killing Red Skull and sacrificing myself didn't end the war? Oh my god! Oh my god!